Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of She Coaches Coaches. I am so glad that you're here today, and I have a special guest for you who I'm really excited to hear this conversation. So, let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Karolina Ross, and she is an intuitive well being guide, and she empowers mothers to transform their relationship with self care. She does it through practical tools that take minutes, not hours. And this proves that well being doesn't need expensive retreats or elaborate routines to be effective. With her unconventional holistic approach and backed by a lifetime of experience, training, and experimentation, Carolina serves as both guide and fellow traveler for women who consistently prioritize everyone but themselves. Her approach bridges the gap between trendy wellness, culture, and authentic self compassion through intuitive, back to basics solutions. As an introverted and mom to teen, Carolina brings authenticity and gentle humor to her work. She creates a safe space where women can explore and integrate what truly works for their unique circumstances. Carolina, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Tell me, that introduction, there was a lot there. And the thing
Mm.
that really jumped out at me when I read it was this idea that it's practical tools that could take minutes, not hours. How did you get to this point? Like, tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got to this point where you learned how to do this.
Mm. Thank you. Um, so I was brought up in a belief that if you want to be a good person, you want to be a good mom, you want to be a good wife, it means being available, it means being there for other people, always saying yes. And self-care is treated as a luxury thing. If you just do it, it's selfish. You don't take time for yourself. No, you just don't do it. You're there
Right.
for other people, right? So, like most of women in my environment, most of women in my family, I was wearing my exhaustion like a badge of honor, you know? Until one day, my body said, stop, I cannot do it any longer. I hit burnout really hard. Um, I remember that I dragged myself out of bed to start work, and then in the middle of typing something, I could feel something wet on my cheeks. I was so disconnected with myself that I didn't realize that I was crying. So I was signed off with burnout. I was signed off with stress. Um, that was a blow. I felt ashamed. I felt guilty. I felt like I failed because at that time I was a mental health specialist. So I should know better, right? And yet here I am, signed off with burnout. um, so my first reaction was recover quickly and efficiently. Um, as many tools as possible, as many ways as possible, as many ideas as possible. But that was making me even more tired, even more exhausted, and I wasn't recovering, I wasn't healing. So I decided to scrap everything and start from basics. So I went to really basics like have some rest, make sure that you feed your body with nutritious diet. I had to learn how to be compassionate towards myself like I was towards other people. But going back to basics and this self-compassion really helped me to become grounded, to be calmer, to be me, myself. And that journey has also helped me to realize that I am an example to my daughter. And I didn't want my daughter to follow my steps. I didn't want her to see self-care as something luxurious. I didn't want her to have a burnout.
It sounds
Um,
like there's, I mean, first the healing for yourself. And, as you describe your story, I know that there's a lot of people listening that are nodding along. They've experienced this
mm,
themselves. And so this place to be so disconnected from your body, to not even realize that you're crying, is it's hugely it's disruptive, right? Like it's really, you feel like you've got it all together and you didn't realize how close to burnout you were.
yeah,
And then to add on top of it the shame that many people experience when they have burnout. I know I sure did. When I went through burnout, I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to think that I'm weak. They're going to think that there's something, I better rush and get this over with and get back. Like
yeah,
there was a real fear of what will people think of me,
yeah,
and so just as you describe your experience, I'm sure that there is a lot of people who are nodding their head, both men and women. I know that you speak directly to mums and you speak of the female experience, but I think that it's very common. What was the first thing that you did? Like once you stopped kind of rushing to fix it, what was the first thing that you did where you really felt a difference?
So I remember one day I just sat down and I asked myself, what do I need here and now? What do I need here and now? And sometimes it was just sitting and doing nothing. Sometimes it was going on a walk. Sometimes it's going and having a chat with a friend, um, or reading a book, or just having a cup of tea without a phone. I just started connecting with myself by the simple tasks, simple, I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, simple
Um,
tasks.
yeah.
That's
And I discovered positive psychology at that time, which focuses on finding positive things even when you're going through a difficult time. It's not dismissing the difficult time, but trying to find something positive. So I started journaling, and every day I was focusing on what went well today and why.
mm,
And this
mm.
is something what I actually practice with my daughter every night. What went well today? What was your highlight of the day? And we've been doing it for years now. Um, and self-compassion.
Yeah. How did you start with the self?
Self-compassion.
How did you start with the self-compassion?
With self-compassion, I started by, I came across a book by Christine Neff about self-compassion. And this reading made me realize that A, I'm not the only one going through a hard time. B, it's okay to go through a hard time. And C, um, it will pass.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
you
love
have
that.
to be patient with yourself.
And
You
there's
cannot
nothing,
rush it.
you don't want to be patient. You want it to be over. So the three things that really got you started on the healing path, where you really noticed the difference, is first, giving yourself a little bit of space and time and asking, what do you need in this moment?
Yeah,
The second was to practice self compassion. And that was just a book that you found. And I haven't read the book, but I know who you mean. And the third one, I've forgotten. What was it? The third one that you said that you did.
positive
Oh,
psychology.
yes. And at the end of the day, what went well and why? Like, why was that
Yeah, so
good?
this is
Yeah.
part of the positive psychology, finding the positives of your day, of your situation.
Yeah.
simple question, what went well and why, but very powerful.
Hmm. Yeah. And there's
Yeah,
almost a feeling of the gratitude practice with that too, right? Like, but you're not saying,
yeah,
what am I grateful for? But you're kind of approaching it from the looking at things from that positive lens, trying to find the positive perspective.
yeah.
Yeah.
The gratitude practice is really great, but I sometimes feel that it's sold in a way that people wonder, what do I put here?
Mm.
I'm having really crappy time. I'm exhausted. I'm not grateful for anything. But when you change the question to what was the highlight of my day? What went well today and why? It changes it shifts your perspective.
Yeah. The thing that, like, as you describe those two, the difference is there's looking for something in your life and in your view and in your experience. And the gratitude practice, there can be a feeling of pressure. Like, I have to find
Yeah.
something to be grateful for, like it's a big deal. And when you're really having a hard time, it can be really hard to find something to be grateful for. And that sort of spins on the I'm not doing enough, I'm not grateful enough, there's something wrong with me, as opposed to really looking at, just today, what happened. Like this morning, I went for a walk and I came
Mm.
home and there was so many homes along the road that I walked where their rose bushes are in full bloom and they're all different colors. Like it's really amazing when you look at them. But
Yeah.
I normally, like I walk just about every morning, but to see that, like that's a real highlight. There was nothing other than that I noticed it and it made me smile. It was a
Yeah,
nice thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this morning I went on a walk and I found myself under a tree and I stood there for 5 minutes because the birds were so cheerful, so full of joy that I was just standing and walking, looking at them. Couldn't see anything,
Yeah.
but their voice was just, oh my gosh, I still have goosebumps when I think
Oh,
about it.
yeah. And
That's the
so there
highlight
so
of
there's
the day.
another it's a perfect example of a small practical thing that you did just today
Yes,
that really had an impact on you. Like that's
yeah.
self-care. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the myths that you see? Like you've been building this expertise for a long time now. What are some of the myths that you see about self-care that would be really great to debunk for us?
Mhm. I think one of the myths is that the wellness industry often promotes expensive, luxurious self-care products and experiences, um, which leads us to misconception that self-care must be extravagant,
Mm,
or it has to be something self time consuming to count, like having a massage or something,
right.
um, which leads us to overlooking everyday habits. Uh, and based on my own experience and my experience working with moms, women, um, guilt related to self-care.
Right.
Quite often, women feel guilty by taking time for themselves
You talked
because
about
it's
that a
so
little in your introduction as well, this place where um, a lot of times women's role as defined by society is take care of everybody else
yeah,
and not themselves. So what do you
yeah.
think about that guilt? Where any thoughts about where it comes from and how do you kind of detach from that?
Guilt comes from a lot of places. Societal expectations is one place. Our cultures is another place. The way we were brought up is also a place to seek for guilt. Um, I recently talked to a client, and she she works full time. She looks after her family, and she is also looking after her parents, elderly parents. She ended up off sick with stress
Mm.
for a week. And during that week, we spoke, and she said, "Well, I'm going back to work next week." And I could, when she was talking, I could see burnout symptoms. So I did ask her why you're so in such a hurry. And she said, because I feel guilty.
Mm.
I cannot be off. I've already been off for a week. So surely it's enough.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's not definitely not speaking about your client, but just speaking about the human experience, is that sometimes our work is a place where we get personal satisfaction as well. Like we can do the work, we can do a good job, we can have relationships through work, we can be recognized for the good work that we do. And so taking time off work sometimes removes that positive uh,
Yeah.
aspect of our life. Like sometimes work is stressful for sure, but there's always good stuff to do with it too. And so
Yeah.
then if you're taking care of all your family and your parents, you've actually lost one of the good aspects by taking time off work because now you've got more time to take care of your parents or more time to parent or do all the things around the house. Have you ever seen that as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it's very common. The problem is that a lot of women seek validation through action. So if you don't do anything, you're not valued.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
If you're looking after yourself, well, first of all, you need to deserve, you need to earn to have me time by
Hmm.
serving others. And if you don't do it, you're not valued.
Yeah. This is like the one of the repercussions of being a capitalistic society. Everything is reduced to productivity and FTE count and, cost per unit.
Yeah,
And so things that are just life have now been commoditized, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But what happens with self-care is also going back to your question about guilt, is also about what we see in social media, what we see out there is one size fits all um, advice, and that leads to guilt as well, because as an introvert, for example, you will need something different than extrovert. If I remember one day I saw on social media that if you start your day at 5 o'clock in a boot camp, you're gonna be achieving everything what you want in your life. And I was like, right, I'm going through perimenopause. I hardly sleep at night, and now you're
Mm.
telling me to get up at 5 o'clock and start exercising, which I don't like. I like my sleep,
Yeah.
and I don't like exercising. That made me so guilty that I thought, well, there is something wrong with me. There's loads of people doing it and they are achieving their goals. Why
Mm.
can't I do it? It made me, this made me realize that, okay, one size fit for all is not working. We are each different, we have different circumstances, and we need to take that on board when we think about self-care.
And so I think that's one of the reasons for the work that you do is to not just help your clients guide them because you've got experience in this area. You've done a lot of the research, you've tried it as well and tried it with many clients, but you
Mm.
can also help them fine tune to find the approach that works for them instead
Yeah.
of, if you just do X, it's going to magically fix you,
Yeah.
where maybe you don't actually need fixing. Maybe you just need to remember who you are and then try some things that work with your personality style coupled with your lifestyle. And so to me, that's the
Yeah.
value of the work that you do with your people. Is that what you see as well?
Yes. To me, it's really important for a person I work with to understand what they mean by self-care.
Mhm.
It's really important for them to connect with themselves, to understand what's important for them and what works for them. Because, like I said, 5 a.m. may not work for me, but it may work for you. I don't know.
Right, exactly. And it depends. Like at 5 a.m. didn't used to work for me when I had, young kids at home, but it works for
Yeah,
me very well now because I'm not trying to, manage children and get them to school and home and all of that. So a
yeah,
different time in my life means that a different time can work for me.
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
curious because I know that, as we've had this conversation, there's been this talk about you noticed that you were going into burnout because of exhaustion. And I always want to bring it back to this, the person who's listening that kind of knows they need to make some changes, but they don't really know where to start. And so I
Mm.
really, when you talk about self-compassion and to answer this question, how can I be kind to myself today? So how does somebody who already feels exhausted and pretty stressed, how do they even start with answering that question for themselves? How can I be kind to myself today?
Mm. It's a really good question. I know. Thank you. Um, I would say start small, like really small. Have a cup of tea for 10 minutes in the garden without your phone. It
Mm,
might be enough.
yeah.
Um, a lot of my clients actually have a problem with putting self-care, even the small steps, into the daily routine because they're not used to it. So what I often suggest is to add your self-care tools or activities to your to-do list.
Mm,
So when you create your to-do list for a day, make sure that between cleaning, cooking, shopping, taking the children to school, picking the children up, um, you have 10 minutes for a cup of tea in the garden, 30 minutes for reading a book, um, 15 minutes to have a chat with a friend, whatever works for you, add it to your list. Uh, that will help you to reduce the guilt you may feel, and you teach your brain to you kind of hack your brain because to your brain it really doesn't matter whether you're cleaning or sipping a cup of tea in the garden. Your brain sees a task on the
mm,
list,
mhm,
and when you complete the task you can take it off. So your brain is happy, I've completed mission,
mhm,
but at the same time your body is happy because I could breathe, I had a chance to relax. And when you put it in between, it's less stressful, reduces the guilt, and actually helps you to regain your energy, which you used for cleaning a bathroom.
right. I love that. The other, and I love that the list, checking something off the list gives us that little dopamine hit of I
Yeah,
completed something. So this is great. But then
yeah,
the thing is actually a bit of a small self-care item. And I think the other piece that's really interesting is that most of the women that might be listening to this show, they're high achievers. They're out there really doing all the things. And that approach really fits well with their style as well. They love
Mm,
to accomplish things. And so now the thing that they're accomplishing is actually putting themselves on the list, even just a little bit, right? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It can be, have a lunch away from a computer, maybe not. Or don't touch your phone for 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I love it. Okay, Carolina, I loved this conversation. And I think that what I'm really seeing is a real different approach to self care, something that's more human and more doable and less daunting for the average person who needs a little bit of extra. How can people find out more about you?
So the best place is probably my website, which is karolinaross.com. I also created a free handbook with ideas, doable, cost-free actions that you can take here and now to reduce your stress, to feel more energized, to feel better in yourself, which you can find on my website under free handbook um, widget.
Great. Yeah, I love it. And I'll make sure to put everything in the episode notes there. And I'll also add the link to the book for Kristen Neff, because I think that that's an important thing as well for people who are really curious about how
Mm.
do I integrate self-care and how do I, refresh myself. Thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I know that the listeners are going to take away a lot. And my wish is that you listeners, you take one thing out of this conversation that I had with Carolina and you put it into action and do that little bit of extra care for yourself. It is for you, it's also caring for the other people in your life. But most of all, your life is valuable and you deserve a good life that feels good. Take some of Carolina's advice and run with it. Thanks again so much for joining me this week. We'll talk to you soon.